It will be some time before we know for sure what killed 33-year-old Chris Farley, one of America's best-known combined actors and comedians. But tonight, correspondent Carol Maureen of CBS News and CBS station WBBM News 2 Chicago reports some of what Farley was doing in the final days and hours of his life.
An autopsy was performed this morning by the Cook County Medical Examiner, but toxicology reports, which will determine how Farley died, may not be complete for weeks. Farley's body was discovered yesterday in his luxury apartment in Chicago's John Hancock Center. Police say there was no sign of foul play and no drugs were discovered in his condominium. But one published report says drug use may have been the reason he died. And CBS News has learned 2 days before his death, Chris Farley contacted a Chicago escort service. Tuesday afternoon was spent, according to a source, drinking alcohol and smoking marijuana. Farley's offstage life of alcohol and drug abuse had been widely known throughout his career. But friends like Joyce Sloan, a longtime producer from Chicago's Second City comedy troupe, say there was another side to Farley.
He was very religious. I don't know if you know that or not. He often went to Mass. Chris had so many demons, and he couldn't fight them.
His acting idol was John Belushi. Both men shared a history of outrageousness. Not only on the screen, but off the screen as well. Belushi died at the age of 33 from a drug overdose. Was he fatalistic about living very long?
I think he wanted to go like John at 33.
Good evening, I'm Marty McNeely for WGN News. Comic actor John Belushi died today at a rented hotel bungalow in the Hollywood Hills. Authorities say that cause of death is believed to have been a heart attack. Fire department medics said they were called to the hotel where they found Belushi unconscious and choking.
All right, y'all. What is going on? It's Black Balloon. And we're coming back with another video, y'all. Another video, so y'all already know what's going on. Alright, now a lot of people wanted me to do this video a long time ago, and quite honestly, I think I just forgot. I forgot to do it, and I saw something recently, and it just popped in my mind. I was like, damn, this would actually be a perfect video to do around this time, considering that I just talked about the number 33, and I was, telling y'all in that last video about Glorilla, and I was like, yo, am I tripping? Is it me? Is it this and that? Of course, like I already know how y'all are. Y'all like, nah, there's no coincidences, because we already know this stuff. I guess in a sense, I just like to be a little modest sometimes, I don't want to be a know-it-all and just, I want y'all feedback as well to tell me what y'all actually thinking, So I figured this is the perfect time to do the Chris Farley video and the John Belushi video. If I say his last name right. A lot of y'all be trying to correct me on stuff, but anyways, look. All right, so we're here, right? Now, I just happened to find this article from an article called, or a site, called All That's Interesting, right? I thought it was crazy. They did an article like damn near the exact same way. Maybe this is their style of the way that they do their articles, but just check this out, It's actually quite eerie the way that both of these dudes died, right? Now it says, Chris Farley's death in December 1997 was caused by a speedball mix of cocaine and morphine. But his friends think there's more to his tragic story. Now, disclaimer real quick, because I know a lot of y'all like clips, and y'all like to see certain things, but, all I could pretty much find was those news clips about these two. It's not the typical thing where, they're exposing the industry and they have a bunch of stuff to say that goes against the industry. It's not one of those typical videos I would do, so this one just involves more talking. But anyways, I just wanted to let y'all know that before we really get into the video. All right. So says Chris Farley was a force to be reckoned with on Saturday Night Live, SNL, during the 1990s. He stole the show in iconic sketch roles such as motivational speaker Matt Foley and a pudgy Chippendales dancer. But off-screen, Farley's wild partying and unchecked excess proved to be fatal. In the end, Chris Farley died of a drug overdose in a Chicago high-rise on December 18th, 1997, at the age of just 33. He died, y'all. Now, these two, their deaths have a lot of occult numerology behind them. For starters, Chris Farley died on December 18th. He died on a Thursday. We know that the number 18 breaks down to 3 sixes. He also died at the age of 33. That number is a key number in this video, and it's, basically completely feeds this video. It's what gives it the entire, eeriness of this whole ritual sacrifice thing that these people love to do. And they're very good at it. They're very good at it. They're very good at making it seem like it was truly something that, this person was down spiraling. And half the time they actually use it against them, They make sure these people die the way that they lived so the public don't question it. It's kind of genius, because no regular person, people that don't think about this kind of stuff, they're not going to question Chris Farley overdosing. Why? Because this article, and just like many other articles, they feed you the narrative before you can even really know, It's like, okay, yeah, he was on drugs. Yeah, people around him knew it. His friends knew it. His early SNL buddies knew it. Adam Sandler knew it. David Spade knew it. Just like this. Soon after Farley arrived on the show in 1990, he felt the pressure of newfound fame. He began to rely on drugs and alcohol and quickly gained a reputation for outrageous behavior. They said people described him as a very sweet guy before midnight. So they already give you, they make sure in these kind of articles, they really paint the picture of who he actually was. Because then you just won't question him dying from an overdose. You're looking at it the same as the people who did around him. It was, something he had coming. It was coming for him regardless if he kept on living the way that he, chose to live. That's the way that any normal person would think about it. It says Farley struggled to kick his habits of drinking too much alcohol, doing too many drugs, and also overeating. He was in and out of weight loss centers, rehab clinics, and Alcoholics Anonymous meetings. By the late 1990s, Farley continued to go on increasingly concerning benders, some of which involved heroin and cocaine. Even Adam Sandler warned him that you're going to die from that, buddy. You've got to stop. Others, like Chevy Chase, recalled taking a tough love approach, basically telling him, look, you're not your idol. You're not John Belushi. And when you overdose or kill yourself, you will not have the same acclaim that John did. You don't have the record of accomplishment that he had. People around him obviously knew that was like kind of his idol, and that maybe he was living his life in a sense of trying to be like John Belushi, trying to have that same, steez about himself, his same kind of comedy style or whatever he was doing on SNL, having that same just, wow behavior and the way that he maybe approached comedy, right? So that's what make this entire story tangled together, and it kind of makes it a little juicy because it's actually crazy to me. It's crazy to me. Someone, who does this kind of stuff, and, we look at this ritualistic stuff from Hollywood, the industry, the film industry, rap industry, whatever you want to call it. I almost couldn't believe the stories are exactly the same from these two. Exactly the same. Says he went on 17 stints in rehab. And Chris Farley could not outrun his demons. After a 4-day binge involving booze and various drugs, Farley was found dead once again at age 33 on December 18th. His brother found him sprawled in his Chicago apartment entryway. wearing only pajama bottoms. And I saw the pictures. You can find the pictures. You can see the pictures. Supposedly there was a woman. Supposedly there was a woman there with him that took pictures of him right after he died. There was a woman there, I guess, doing drugs with him as well. It says the next evening he stopped by the 38th anniversary party for Second City. He was later spotted at a pub crawl. The following day, he blew off plans to get a haircut and allegedly spent time with a 300 per hour call girl. Now here I found something that goes a little bit more into detail about the call girl that Chris was supposedly with that night. It says Farley would accompany Heidi back to her apartment where they would continue to smoke crack and snort heroin. Chris claimed he'd been up for 4 days straight without sleep. They tried unsuccessfully to have sex, but Chris couldn't, get up. Then at 11 p.m., Chris and Heidi returned to Chris's apartment in the Hancock building. She was growing angry because she wanted to get paid, but Chris continued to claim that a friend was supposed to pay her. They reportedly tried to have sex again and again, were unsuccessful. So finally, at 3 a.m., she left his apartment. Now, this is where it gets crazy. This is where it gets beyond me that they would give us these stories the way that they give us to them. And it's gonna tie into it's gonna tie into Belushi as well once we get to his part. So it says Farley was so inebriated he collapsed about 10 feet from the door as Heidi was exiting. Heidi claimed she could hear that he was experiencing labored breathing. He said to her, quote, "Don't leave me." Assuming he had finally passed out, she took a photograph of him lying on the floor and then left. Farley was discovered the next afternoon by his brother John. Chris's body was still lying just 10 feet from the door, clad in pajama bottoms and a button-down shirt, which you could see in the photo that was unbuttoned. His hand was clutching a baseball cap and some rosary beads. Emanating from his nose was a blood-tinged fluid, and a white, frothy foam was coming from his mouth, indicating overdose. Now, if this is accurate, then he must not have completely overdosed when the girl left, because she assumingly, basically she assumed that he had passed out. And the crazy thing about it is, if, the photos of him, you can clearly see the photos of him. He has foam coming out his mouth, and he has blood at the top of his head. If she assumed and just thought he passed out and took photographs of him, why would she leave and he overdosed? Go and look at the photos for yourself. You can see the foam coming out of his mouth, but she just walks out. This is at 3 a.m., y'all. We know what that 3 a.m. is all about. In the witching hours of the night. She left. He said, "Don't leave me," which is crazy because you're going to find out Belushi died the exact same way. The lady that drugged Belushi, his idol, the drug dealer that supposedly drugged him, injected him with Speedball, the lethal dose, guess what he told her before she left? Just don't leave me. Bro, y'all ain't gonna believe this shit. Y'all ain't gonna believe the story is exactly the same. I thought I was tripping. I thought I was maybe still reading Chris' story when I was reading Belushi's story. I'm like, hold on. Maybe I'm still reading Chris' story or something. Bro, everything is the same. They were both with a girl. They both died at 33. They both told a girl, "Don't leave me," and then the girl left. We're gonna get to it more with Belushi. But he told her, "Don't leave me." She took photos of him foaming out of the mouth. It doesn't make sense. But, I just wanted to stress that just so you could really see what I'm thinking here. But, we already know what this is at the end of the day. It's plain as day. This is one of the more blatant ones right here. I just thought, wow, at reading the facts. His cause of death was an overdose of morphine and cocaine, known as Speedball. So, the thing is about this is, this is literally You know, and some people say that maybe he wanted to go out like John Belushi. Now, look at this. You know, I guess he really did want to go out like John Belushi, or he was pretty much ritually sacrificed and they just decided to, you know, right in our face, give us their deaths both literally the same way. And the bottom of the Chris Farley article, it said, you know, in a eerily similarity, he dies exactly the same way John Belushi did. John Belushi died Los Angeles, March 5th, 1982, which, you know, most actresses, most famous celebs, they're always from a completely different state, and they end up dying in California where they basically sold their souls at. You know, where they meet the devil, you know, they're offered up in the same place, you know. So it says in 1982, after a drug dealer, Kathy Smith, injected him with a lethal combination of cocaine and heroin known as a speedball. That was how he died. Chris Farley, same thing basically. Cocaine and morphine known as a speedball. March 5th was a Friday. 1982. Chris Farley died on a Thursday. 1997. Once again, John Belushi died at just 33 years old at the Chateau Marmont. 33 years old, y'all. We already know. We already know what's going on. I thought, you know, I didn't know all the details of both of their deaths, but when I read a few different articles just to make sure things were all the same, which they were. I was kind of like shocked, but not shocked. I just couldn't believe they both died from the same thing. So, what makes you think Chris Farley wasn't injected as well? Same for John Belushi. And it says his death came at no surprise to those who knew him best. So we're literally about to get the same exact story. 33-year-old comedy extraordinaire died far too soon after a years-long spiral into drug addiction. Says filmmaker and close friend Penny Marshall knew about Belushi's drug use all too well. I swear, you'd walk down the street with him and people would hand him drugs. And then he'd do all of them. Be the kind of character he played in sketches or Animal House. Sadly, almost everyone who knew Belushi well could clearly see his downward spiral in the years that preceded his demise. The immediate cause of John Belushi's death may have been the speedball combination of cocaine and heroin that he took on that one night in Los Angeles in 1982. The truth is that this tragic end had been a long time in the making. Once again, we kind of get the same story. Now, rather you want to believe Chris Farley just copied every single thing about John Belushi, that's up to you. But once again, they give us the same narrative of how both of them died at the age of 33. The seeds of how John Belushi died were sown very soon after his rise began. Same thing they said about Chris Farley. As soon as he started to become famous, so on and so on. Stardom did come with a price, and Belushi began abusing cocaine and other drugs to cope with his insecurities and the long hours that came with working in film and television. Picture of John Belushi in 1978. His heavy reliance on drugs worsened during the filming of The Blues Brothers. Quote, "We had a budget in the movie for cocaine for night shoots," Dan Aykroyd told Vanity Fair in 2012. Quote, "John, he just loved what it did. It sort of brought him alive at night. That superpower feeling where you start to talk and converse and figure you can solve all the world's problems." Then it goes on to say Belushi's drug abuse continued to spiral out of control as he became frustrated with the response to his next couple of films. The last few months of Belushi's life were spent sprawling the streets of Los Angeles in a haze of drugs. People reported that Belushi spent about $2,500 a week on his drug habit the last few months of his life. The more money he made, the more coke he blew. Same thing. If both of these guys were spiraling so much in their last couple of months, weeks, days of their lives, how come no one helped? Now, at the end of the day, you can say, oh yeah, you can't control someone. They're going to do drugs and they're alone. They're going to do this and they're going to do that. But it seems like everyone knew. Everyone was just waiting on both of them to die. Or, once again, just like I said earlier, do we know that this is the media? This is the machine. This is what they give us. They give you this story that the average person would never question. You would never not believe it because so many around him. You know, these people could agree to say anything. Oh, yeah, man, he did drugs all the time. We was just waiting on him to die. We couldn't stop him. They will agree to anything. They're in the same circle. They don't want to die. Half the time, I believe the people that are being ritualistically killed, they don't even know they're up for it yet. It just happens. And they're sort of guided. They're like numerically guided along, and sometimes they don't even know. Most of them don't know that they're about to die and fulfill a ritual at 33 years old. Most of them have no clue. But I guarantee you, some of them are guided. That's why they have handlers. But I just don't believe this happens the way that they said it happened. And I wanted to read it from this article because, you know, this article seems like they had a grip on it, and they did the article the exact same way just to tell the, you know, tragic final days of both men. This was his body being taken out of the Chateau Marmont. It says, how did John Belushi die? On February 28th, 1982, John checked into Bungalow 3 at Chateau Marmont, a luxury hotel overlooking the Sunset Strip. Little was known about his movements for the next couple of days. However, a grand jury testimony by SNL writer shed light on Belushi's last few hours. Lyon testified that on March 2nd, Belushi showed up at his home with Kathy Smith, a Canadian drug dealer he met on the set of SNL. That was one of the setups right there. There's somebody that was on the set of SNL. According to Lyon, Smith injected both men with cocaine, a total of 5 times that day. He next saw Smith and Belushi on March 4th when they arrived at his home. Smith then injected Belushi with drugs at Lyon's home 3 or 4 times. Later that evening, according to Lyon, the 3 of them met actor Robert De Niro on the Rocks, an exclusive club for celebrities on Sunset Strip. Belushi never made it to the club, apparently staying in his hotel room the whole night while De Niro tried to coax him out over the phone, basically trying to get him to come out. Lyon testified that neither man took any drugs. However, Smith injected both him and Belushi with a cocktail of cocaine and heroin, otherwise known as speedball, same way Chris Farley died, in the club's office. Quote, it rendered me a walking zombie and made him vomit, Lyon testified. This is Kathy Smith on the left. And she was the last person to see him alive. Smith drove the 3 men back to the bungalow the morning of March 5th, and De Niro and comedian Robin Williams dropped by for a brief visit, each helping themselves to some cocaine. Everyone left except for Belushi and Smith. Smith later reported that, alarmed by the sound of his breathing, she woke Belushi at about 9:30 a.m. and asked if he was okay. Quote, just don't leave me alone, he replied. Instead, she left a little past 10 a.m. to go run some errands. And around noon, Belushi's personal trainer, Bill Wallace, arrived at the bungalow and let himself in with his key. Of course, finding Belushi unresponsive. Now, I think that pretty much tells us all we need to know. His cause of death was acute cocaine and heroin poisoning. The chief medical examiner later testified that had Belushi not taken drugs, he wouldn't have died. It was that simple. And if he was still alive, he would be in his 70s today. And I think Chris Farley would be maybe low 60s. So I'm not sure if this woman was charged with anything, but we know the play here. I don't think there's anything to question. He sat there and told her, just don't leave me alone. and the lady still left. Who knows what happened in that 30 minutes, because she said she woke him up at 9:30. 10 o'clock she left. 12 o'clock the trainer decides to come to the room. Doesn't really make sense. The trainer let himself in with the key that he had. So to me, it doesn't make sense, and who knows what happened from 9:30 to 12 o'clock. That's completely left in the air. We don't know. Maybe he was finished off. Maybe she actually had the job of giving him the lethal dose that she knew and others who were in charge of the ritual. Maybe they knew he would die from that. But this one was crazy. This one was obvious, that they both died the exact same way. From basically a lethal dose of a speedball, a mix of morphine and cocaine for Chris Farley, and a mix of cocaine and heroin for John. Both at 33 years old, y'all. Come on, y'all. We just did the video with, just to talk about the most recent number 33 with Glorilla. The first lady they said died was 33 years old, y'all. Come on, man. Come on. This back in 1982 and 1997. Of course, it goes back even further than that. It goes, of course it does. Sam Cooke died at 33. So, of course, it goes way, way back. That's pretty much all I have for this video. I definitely wanted to bring this video to the channel and get y'all thoughts about it. Like I said, sorry that this wasn't the, original way I would do these kind of videos, but, there was just not much footage I could add. Like I said, these two weren't, two people who were against the industry and stuff like that. So there wasn't really content I could actually get that would be relevant to the video from them two, as far as being outspoken. But I hope y'all enjoyed this video. I know I'm getting it out a day later than I usually would on a Sunday. But y'all let me know what y'all think in the comments. If there's anything that I missed, please let me know in the comments. We can get a conversation going back and forth. And with that being said, it's Black Balloon. And I'm going to see y'all soon.